So we've got 21 people in the lineup already. We had about 60 people sign up, so I'm just waiting for a few more people, a few more attendees, and then we can get started. Hello to everyone in the lobby. Welcome to this CPD webinar, how to make CPD work for you. Just going to let a few more people roll in. Thank you for coming today and giving up your time. So I think we can make a start. So hello and welcome to this CPD webinar, how to make CPD work for you. My name is John Hall, and I'm the Professional Development Officer for CIHT, and I will introduce my co-speaker very shortly. But this webinar will give you some information, guidance, and best practice advice on how to plan, undertake, record, and reflect on your CPD activities. You'll receive a demonstration of CIHT Learn's online platform, CIHT's online learning platform, CIHT Learn, and also be informed of how and where to find some other great sources of CPD. This webinar will also cover what CPD is, what CIHT says that CPD constitutes, and the importance and value of CPD on our guests' career and your career. We'll also clearly set out CIHT's membership requirements and help you understand the new CIHT CPD guidance, including the new decarbonisation CPD requirement. So we'll do a quick introduction, and as I said just now, we're going to go over what the CPD guide is, talk a bit about the transportation decarbonisation pathway as well, and as I say, give you a demonstration of CIHT Learn, give you some great examples of what CIHT says CPD is, and have a discussion for about 20 minutes with myself and Agnieszka, who is a member of the CPD panel. So myself, I've held positions in the education and professional development departments at multiple engineering institutions. I've supported the CPD program for both, and I'm the secretariat for the CIHT CPD panel. I come to this webinar with many years of experience helping members support, record, and reflect on their CPD activities. And I was also instrumental in supporting the CIHT Learn platform development, and I will give a demonstration of that platform later on during this webinar. I'm going to introduce now my colleague Agnieszka. Hi Agnieszka, would you like to say a few words?
Hi John, thank you. Yes, before I do so, can I just check that you're sharing the presentation, because I cannot see it on my end. Perhaps you are, perhaps it's just my end.
Yes, I am. I am sharing the presentation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Agnieszka Jezierska. I'm an associate project manager at Norman Rock Prime. So obviously undertaking CPDs is key for my career. So I'm able to contribute to the discussions and shape the future and influence the future. I'm also a women committee member at NRP and also contributing to some of the social value events organized by NRP, and we can hopefully touch on how these sort of link with CPDs and also your career and success to your career. I'm also a STEM ambassador. I have been for the last few years, and I've been fortunate enough to be invited as a speaker at the CIHT Young Professional Summit last year in November, when I was sort of reflecting on my career and some of the things that have taken me to where I am now. And one of the things I've stressed at the presentation, at the seminar, is the importance of those little things and going extra mile in your everyday job and everything we do, and how that really shapes your career and where you will be going in your career, in your professional future. And really, we will touch on that as well today, how CPDs are one of those things that shape your future and help you progress and succeed. I'm also a chartered civil engineer and received an award for the outstanding performance at the professional review. I was also nominated for the Karen Belt Award by CIHT and also featured by the Engineering Council and CIHT. And the reason I wanted to mention that here is because I would like to also strongly encourage you to, after the webinar, to also go and explore some of those business cases and some of the other engineers featured by CIHT, because these are really tangible examples of people, professionals who have gone extra mile, who have taken the time to invest in themselves and achieved really amazing things. And hopefully you'll be inspired by some of those stories, and who knows, maybe you will go on and inspire others as well. And we will hopefully show today how through CPDs you are able to achieve just that. Also, I'm a proud member of CIHT CPD panel, so hopefully I can bring some perspective to today's discussion from that point of view. I'm also a mom of 2 daughters and a wife, which means I'm not just a professional. I also have other commitments. I've got I've got other things to juggle, and I'm sure many of you will have similar commitments, either through being a parent or through being a carer. Maybe some of you will have health limitations that mean you will find it a little bit more difficult or take more time to attend some of those events or undertake CPDs. And one of the things that came out of the CIHT CPD survey last year that was published, the results were published in the January Transportation Professional magazine, is that I think 1/3 of respondents said that they struggle to find the time to record, to undertake and record CPD. So hopefully we can bring that aspect to the discussion today, and hopefully we are able to share some of the useful tips and clever ways of trying to overcome some of those challenges. And hopefully you will go away as well with some useful information and find it easier. So hopefully, sort of wearing those few hats that I do, I can contribute to this discussion today from different angles and different perspectives. And hopefully you will go away more informed and inspired. And I hope you enjoy the webinar today. Thank you very much, John. And with that, I'll hand back to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Agnieszka. That's wonderful. I should also say that we have Kat Gumal on the line as well. She's going to be in the background and answering some questions from the audience. She's the Head of Education and Professional Development at CIHT and my boss, so I better watch my P's and Q's today. But we will we'll answer some questions in the background if we can, but if we can't, if we have time to get to those more questions at the end, we'll obviously do a Q&A with Agnieszka and myself, and Kat will be fielding those questions for us. So next. So what does CIHT say CPD is? So CIHT defines CPD as the systematic maintenance, improvement, and broadening of the knowledge, skills, and experience necessary for the execution of the professional and technical duties throughout the practitioner's working life. So another way to put that is that CPD is a way to ensure your skills and knowledge remain up to date throughout your career, and that you can address the challenges facing the sector. CPD can help you with your career development, whether you are brand new to the sector or whether you have many, many years of experience. Spending time thinking about your career goals and planning how to achieve them will help you make the most out of any learning opportunities that come your way and progress in your career. They also show that you are committed to CIHT, to the public in general, and obviously to your clients who you work so hard for. So there's some, Aga, you were going to ask me a question, I think.
Sorry, yes. Yes, we were just going to cover some of the examples of what CPDs, what constitute CPDs. And I think, yeah, I'm happy to sort of add to this slide if you wanted to go first through the slide, John.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. So we often get asked what constitutes CPD and what are examples and types of CPD that you can undertake. So they're broken down into various categories, and it's almost anything that can progress your professional development and support your learning and understanding. But for example, there's voluntary or special interest CPD. So becoming a professional reviewer or assessor with CIHT, or becoming a mentor or a STEM ambassador like Agnieszka. Any voluntary work for aid programs, local clubs, CIHT's professional committees, panels or boards that you might be on, they can all be considered CPD and they can go on your record. For formal education, there's attending formal or higher education programs, such as undertaking a professional qualification, such as engineering technician, incorporated engineer, chartered engineer, or transport planning professional qualification. So all of the learning that you will be undertaking to acquire and achieve that professional qualification can also be considered CPD. There's self-directed learning. Hello?
No, go on. I was just confirming that these are absolutely all the excellent examples of CPD. So go on, finish, John.
Perfect. Do you want to take over for the next couple, Aga? Or shall I just keep going?
I'm happy to add to that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think these are really good examples, and perhaps some that can come to mind easier than other examples. And I would like to share some of the things that I do that they also count towards CPDs. So one that you've mentioned is obviously being a STEM ambassador, but also if your organization that you work for undertake some social value related activities, so perhaps presenting at the school, you can volunteer to take part in these, and they not only will count as your CPDs, they will also double count as being a STEM ambassador, because you can record these under your STEM platform, or the other way around. Perhaps you can go on the STEM platform and find an activity in the area where you work and volunteer to take on activity in this area, and that can contribute towards the social values activities by your employer. Another way of meeting CPD requirements and take CPDs is, for example, by reading a book. That's something that I actually recently did. I bought a couple books on project management. Although I've been doing project management for, I think, 4.5 years now, I find that reading books can offer a fresh perspective on matters, or can trigger some thinking, but also works as a refresher in the same way that you'll be refreshing your technical knowledge, reading the guidance, or refreshing, brushing up on your technical skills. In the same way, books on decarbonization, sustainability, there are so many different solutions out there, so many different publications. So that's one way, great way to learn and upskill. And you can also, we talked about challenges of meeting that, finding the time. So for example, I take books when I go, when I travel on public transport, perhaps you may not have the reception. So you may just read the book in that time, or even when I go to doctors or hospital, I typically take books with me and just use that time to read something. It doesn't have to be obviously CPD related, but that's another way where you can incorporate some of the learning in that time. Another way for me, for example, to undertake CPDs is to listen to podcasts. So obviously one obvious way is to find them on CIHT website. That's a great resource for lots of relevant information. But there are also other resources where you can also listen to podcasts. So for example, there are different platforms. I'm not sure if I can name them here, but where you typically go for listening musics or interviews on podcasts. But I was actually surprised to see that there's so much on topics such as decarbonization, sustainability, project management, public speaking, you name it. So that's another great way of just looking for different information. And what I do at home, I sometimes on Saturday when I do cleaning, putting away my laundry or whatever have you, you might be doing exercises or doing other things where you don't have to, you know, concentrate, like, I don't know, yoga, where you really want to have clear mind. But for other exercises and other activities, you just may want to put your earbuds in and just get on about your day and just incorporate listening to interesting information, upskilling during that time. So that could be some ways of trying to sort of juggle that other commitments that you might have outside work with trying to find the time to listen to interesting podcasts and webinars. Another one, if I still can steal another minute, way of learning is to follow on LinkedIn different personas or different institutions, organizations. It could be disability institutions and organizations, obviously CIHT, but it could be leaders or somebody specializing within your area of expertise. And sometimes they just post simple things, simple example of designs, or it could be different way of thinking on how you talk to your team, how to manage your team, how to even think about your work, attention to details, ethics. So all these things you can, in this little snap sort of chat chunks, learn through that platform. So there are lots of different ways of finding the time for CPDs and absorbing that knowledge through different formats, and they will all contribute towards your CPD learning. Thank you, John.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that you can link just doing some yoga with listening to a podcast, and it also counts as CPD. So absolutely, anyone who thinks that they don't have the time to do some CPD or record their CPD, you know, because they're very busy professionals. Indeed, as you say, if you go into the gym, pop on a podcast, listen to something new, it's all CPD learning opportunities. Of course, you've got the more formal education, whereas it comes to you know, self-directed learning or the national CPD events that CIHT put on, for example. So those that you have to physically attend and go to, they obviously count as wonderful CPD opportunities as well. And then of course you've got the vast and various work-based learning CPD. So everything that you do related to work, whether it be internal or external training seminars, you know, courses or events, or even construction site visits. So CPD is such a vast array of opportunities for you to learn. But yeah, great examples there, Agnieszka. Thank you very much.
Can I ask before we?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to really add that these are obviously the type of formats, if you like, but also one thing to remember when you try to maybe think, what have I done or what could I do, is that there will be different areas, obviously. So technical is one obvious that we think of when we think CPDs, but there will be also other things like communication, interpersonal skills, equalities, learning, you know, new design solutions, or even how to undertake engagement with EQIA in mind. It could be your presentational skills, so you could be also brushing up on your soft skills that then help you deliver that technical information, present it better, or at public events. So they are also the other type of skills, if you like, not just technical skills. Remember, you can brush on and expand on and record on the CPDs.
Absolutely. I mean, a good rule of thumb is if you're not sure if it constitutes CPD or not, pop it down on your CPD record, reflect on it, write some information, consider how it's going to benefit you, improve you, how it links to your work, for example. And then you can always sort of make changes and adjust that as you go on. And then you can sort of really sort of hone down what you want to be putting on your CPD record as CPD. But yeah, as Aga was just saying, it encompasses a vast variety of things. So Aga, thank you very much for that. Absolutely, different specialties as well. It's a good point to have. And the new CIHT CPD guide has some great examples of what constitutes CPD, and I'm going to be going through the guide just now to take you through that. But I just thought I'd hone in on what CIHT's membership requirements are for CPD. So a minimum of 25 hours per year. So your CIHT members must undertake, maintain, and record a structured program of CPD of no less than 25 hours of CPD per year to improve their knowledge and update their skills. There is now an expectation as of 2023, January, that members must undertake some of their CPD on decarbonisation, and this is why I'm going to be going through the decarbonisation transportation pathway a little bit later. So it gives some great examples of how you can increase your knowledge on decarbonisation. So of course, members not only have a mandatory obligation to record and maintain a CPD record, but as Aga was referring to earlier, they also have the ethical responsibility to not only themselves, but to their clients and the potential safety of the public. So this is why every year CIHT samples a certain subset of their membership to ask them to submit a CPD record with a development action plan. And that is really to get them, making sure that they have completed their CPD record, but also to encourage them and support them and remind them to keep doing so. A development action plan can be an incredibly useful tool to help you plan for your goals and development activities, but also help you to reflect on what learning you've already done so that you can then plan for the year ahead. So, Aga, did you want to say
John,
something?
is it worth, yes, I just wonder if it's worth just adding on the 25 hours requirement that if you are on a sick leave or on maternity leave, parental leave, then you're not required to undertake those CPDs. But if you are working part-time or semi-retired, then you are still obliged to meet that requirement of 25 hours a year.
Yes, it is a good point. There are certain members, like retired members, for example, who are exempt from submitting CPD. So we usually say it's the paying membership who are required to submit CPD. But absolutely, if you are long-term sick, or if you have a pregnancy, or if you're on maternity leave, then you can still undertake some CPD during that time by doing some reading. But we will do a bit of if you are selected for a CPD record, we'll do some pro rata CPD for you, so you won't have to submit the full record if you fall into those categories. But if you're unsure and you are selected, then just drop us an email and we'll work with you individually on that one on a case-by-case basis. Cool, thank you. So the new CIHT CPD guide is here to support your skills and knowledge development. So I'm going to go through the CPD guide for you now, just to show you, if you haven't already seen it, what it contains and all the useful information within. So this is the new CPD guidance. If you can see this. So there we are. So it has the introduction in it, and obviously what CIHT defines CPD as. What members should do, i.e. maintain and record a structured program of CPD to improve and update their knowledge and skills. it talks about the minimum 25 hours, and it talks about the plan, act, record, and reflect, obviously. So maintaining a development action plan, as I alluded to earlier. Acting on CPD is obviously the undertaking of the 25 hours as a minimum. That's between January and December each year. Recording your CPD, which can be done obviously through CIHT Learn, which I will demonstrate on that platform a bit later for you, and then reflecting on your CPD. So you're reflecting on the CPD that you've already done, you're planning the CPD for your future, you're acting on the CPD that you want to undertake, and keeping a record of all of that. And of course, you can undertake a SWOT analysis as well, which is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that should help you to identify, as it says on the tin, any strengths or weaknesses that you have, and then any opportunities or potential threats to your learning. And it gives you a breakdown of what is expected of CIHT's members, and it gives you a breakdown of what the development action plan is, and how you can use that on CIHT Learn. So it's obviously specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This is a SMART goals on the development action plan. So it tells you what support you have through CIHT and gives you some information about the CIHT Learn platform, which you will be able to see a bit later in this webinar, but it also gives you a little snapshot there of your CPD progress. And then, of course, we have CPD recordings, really useful information here. And that's the types of CPD activity that you have. So creating, giving presentations, online learning, research, training courses, everything that we've been covering, and that Aga has been referring to, Agnieszka has been referring to throughout this webinar. And of course, even writing and researching reports or other publications. So it gives you some great information about what counts as CPD, and then obviously how much you need to do. Gives you some information about the CPD audit that we've been referring to, and reflecting on CPD activities. So this is a wonderful guide, which has been mostly created by Kat Gumal, who's the Head of Education and Professional Development, and in conjunction with other members at CIHT and members like Aga, of course. So if you have an opportunity, I would strongly recommend that you read and absorb the CIHT CPD guide.
Is it worth just mentioning that obviously this is on the CIHT website and just showing where to find that?
Sorry, I was just going to go through that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So bear with me 1 second. Sorry, so yes, you can find the CPD guidance on CIHT's website. So if you go to the CIHT website and go to professional development, you can then go to continuing professional development here, and that will pop up with this web page, and that will give you again some more information about what is CPD, how to use CIHT Learn, CPD activities page, and of course the new CPD guide there. So if you just go to ciht.org.uk and then go to professional development, continuing professional development, and then you can have access to all that wonderful information that we've just been showing on screen. Anything else, Aga?
No, I think that's great. Thank you, John. That's useful.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we're going to go through the transport decarbonisation pathway now. So as we mentioned, our latest guide includes an expectation that from January 2023, all of CIHT's members should focus some of their annual CPD effort on developing the skills and knowledge that they need so they can increase their own knowledge, so they can, of course, in turn, play their own part in the decarbonisation of highways and transportation. The transport decarbonisation pathway is a CIHT member benefit. which provides CIHT members with a high-level summary of the important transport decarbonisation topics around CPD. So this is specifically designed to help you identify your own personal CPD objectives from the transport decarbonisation pathway. So you can embed them into your own learning and your own CPD record. And again, you can use the pathway to identify these CPD objectives and use it as a learning resource. And you can find this transport decarbonisation pathway here on the CIHT's website. So again, if you go to ciht.org.uk and you can log in as a member and you go to the Knowledge Resource Centre, you'll be able to find the transportation decarbonisation pathway.
Can I just add to that also within the CIHT Learn, there is really good webinar and some other information. And also as you read through this sort of framework, there's so many useful links within different topics. So it really does the job for you of making everything available on hand, really, depending on what topic you want to explore more.
Absolutely, thank you, Aga. Yeah, so we have, as Aga says, we have CIHT Learn is full of bite-sized courses and modules, and some centered around decarbonisation, so you can use that as well. But of course, you can also use this decarbonisation pathway to help you identify CPD priorities. So, for example, you've got climate change fundamentals for transportation professionals, key skills and knowledge, and climate change and sustainable development. And all of these links which are embedded into this website are links to CPD opportunities and other web pages where you can find other opportunities as well. So we've done the hard work of combining everything which is related to decarbonisation on our website and putting it into one place for you. So you can, if you're struggling to think of, well, how can I undertake some CPD around decarbonisation, you just come to this this web page, have a look around, and you'll be able to find some form of CPD that will enable you to continue your professional learning journey. So from there, we have the CIHT Learn demonstration, which I'm very excited to show you. If you haven't been on CIHT Learn yet, then this is going to be a good opportunity for you to look at what CIHT Learn is. So you just basically go to ciht.org.uk and type in CIHT-Learn-1. Or obviously you can go to professional development and go to CIHT Learn, which is there, which is much easier, isn't it? So you just go to professional development, CIHT Learn, and that brings up this web page, and then you can access. Now you need to log in as a member, as if you were a member, and then it will give you the opportunity to log in. So I'm just doing this in real time to show you how quick and easy this is for you to log in as CIHT members to CIHT Learn. And I'll give you an actual tour. So once you've logged in, it says welcome and your name. So my name's John, obviously. And then you can look at our course catalog. You can look at courses in progress. So these, if you're already very familiar with it, any courses that you have already started will be in your course in progress section there. And your course catalog will be all of the courses that we have available for you to look at. So they're broken down into topics, and you can find a course by searching them. And there's a huge variety of subjects on there now. So there's stakeholder and public engagement, project management bundles, supervisor skills. There's all sorts of things on there now for you to find and look at. There's obviously other other skills like influencing people and the diversity challenge. But if you go back to your if you go back to If you want to go back to any place on CIHT Learn, you just pop up here and hover over the CIHT Learn icon, and then you can go to either your dashboard, your course catalog, My Learning, My Development Plan, My CPD Dashboard, and then you can obviously create a personal SWOT as well. So if we just pop back to the dashboard, it takes us back to the very beginning here, and then we can look at adding a CPD record, for example. So right here it says My CPD Progress. So it gives you a very quick snapshot that out of the 25 hours for 2023 that we're required to undertake as CHT members, I've undertaken 5 hours. But say I want to add another record, it's very quick and simple to do so. So you click on that button there to add a record, and then you can just type in whatever you want to. So online learning. So if I've done some mentoring learning, I can just type in something like that. And then the amount of hours it is, you can just type in how many hours that it undertakes, that you've taken to do it rather. And then you can type the CPD activity, the date it's been completed. If it's related to one of your development goals, which I'll go over in a second, you can create your own development goals and then link the CPD that you create within CIHT Learn to those development goals. It's very fancy. And then what did you learn from this activity? So you can actually type something in there about what you learned from your activity, how you will apply this new activity to your role. And then if you have any files that you wish to add to this record, you can do it right there. And then you can just click save, and this CPD record has been saved. So you can add another one or go straight. No, go on.
It's worth just mentioning that when you do one of those CPD courses that John was just showing earlier within the CIHT Learn section, once you complete a course, it will prompt you with the question if you want to record that CPD. And if you click yes, it will pre-populate some of the fields that John was just showing. So it will do the job for you, the date, the suggested time, the headings. Obviously, we'll leave the boxes for you to populate what you've learned from it. Equally, when you come out of this and maybe come back to it later, it will also prompt you as a reminder that you've completed something in the past but not recorded it yet, and will ask you the same question. So it really, really makes the recording really easy. And it just takes, a minute after you've completed the course to add it. And for example, when I've completed my courses, some of them give you like a mini certificate that you've completed it. And where John was showing that you can attach something, that's a great place where you can attach the certificate of completion, for example.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you very much, Aga. That's very helpful. Thank you. So yeah, you can create your own personal SWOT within CIHT Learn, adding your strengths and your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats, what your skills, knowledge or experience gaps are, and what you're going to focus your professional development on for the next year. And you can continually update this and save it, and go back in and edit and change it as you will, as you make progress or as you develop. So you can do this on an annual basis, and then you can identify, maybe your strengths have changed, maybe your weaknesses have changed, maybe there's less threats and more opportunities. So once you've made those changes, you can then save them. And it gives you an opportunity here to add more CPD activity or add a development goal. And again, here, adding a development goal gives you an opportunity to have something to plan for, have something to strive for. So you can title your goal, give your goal a description. You can use this SMART framework that we mentioned earlier about how you're going to actually achieve your goal, and then you can save that. So you can, please, sorry, Aga.
It's okay to add just on here while you are on this screen, as you are creating those goals, as John was just showing, They will then appear as a drop-down menu on your CPD dashboard. So you ideally start with the SWOT analysis first, when you can understand and have a little think what are your strengths and weaknesses. They will then ideally inform your objectives and goals. So here you will then move sort of next from that SWOT analysis, and any goals you create here in the top left corner. So when you have a goal title, you will then have these goals created here popping up on the CPD dashboard. So you will then be able to easily track and link the CPD's activities to respective goals. So say you've got 5 goals on here to meet in the upcoming year. As you are undertaking CPDs, you can then link them with those goals. And then on that dashboard that John was showing earlier, you then can very easily see how are you doing against of those goals. So they will show you, for example, for this goal, you say, I want to achieve 5 hours against this goal this coming year. And then on that dashboard here, thank you, John, it will show you, it will basically do the job for you in a traditional way, where you might be recording this in Excel or Word. You don't really have that tool, that ability, unless you kind of manually review them every time you add your CPD. This really does it for you, and it shows in a really nice, snappy way that perhaps you are concentrating only on one goal, but not really going out of your way to identify CPDs for another goal that you've set for yourself. Or that you just have that quick overview that just sort of shows you how overall you are doing against your goals. So this is in addition to showing you the dashboard on how you are overall doing on your CPDs as a total. So obviously this breaks it down to goals. So this is really, I absolutely love this, because for me, that, for example, identify, oh, actually, I've not really done much on this goal that I've set for myself. And I really need to make effort to look for CPDs that help me achieve that goal. So I think this is really great, useful tool.
Absolutely. And then you can drill down into your development goals and create smart goals using the SMART framework, and how you will make those goals achievable and realistic. So thank you, Aga. That's wonderful. So that's the demonstration of CIHT Learn. You can also use CIHT Learn to create your CPD record that you are going to submit to CIHT if you are asked for a CPD record as part of our annual review process. So you can just continually add CPD that you are undertaking throughout the year, and then at the end of the CPD year, you can then download your record onto an Excel spreadsheet directly from CIHT Learn and submit that to CIHT as part of the annual review. So it's everything in one place for you, which is wonderful. And of course, I'm very happy to field any questions later, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll just move on to the Q&A section. So Aga and I are going to have a quick discussion about CPD and how it supports your development, and then we will move on from there. So Aga, leading on nicely, I think a question that I was going to ask you, what are you looking for in a CIHT member's CPD submission?
Yes, I think this is a really good question, because it obviously helps you to think about these things as you are populating, as you are recording your CPDs. So some things will be perhaps more obvious than others, yet it's important to mention them. So we will be looking at some basic information, such as is the record really meeting the requirements? So have the members met the 25 hours per year requirements? Obviously, this year there will be also a question whether members have undertaken any activities around decarbonization. Obviously, that requirement is quite new, but going forward, that will be one of the requirements that I will be looking for. Another one will be, aside from that requirements, will be whether members have undertaken variety of topics. So again, having that SWOT analysis, having those different goals, help you track that and make sure you're not just concentrating on one aspect, but you are undertaking variety of CPDs. Another one will be how the record is kept. Is it clear? Sometimes one thing I think we found, haven't we, John, that sometimes people use too many acronyms and it's a bit difficult to decode what people are trying to say. So it's a bit difficult to understand what was the CPD about. So really just make sure that this is not just for you, but the record is, yes, for you to reflect and be able to demonstrate, but it's also for the external organizations, whether you're an employer or in this case CIHT, to understand what you've done, why you've done it. So just make sure you're keeping that language easy to read, to understand. Also, when you are recording, again, it's important for us to see that you are being realistic in how much time actually meaningfully was gained from that CPD. So, for example, you may have been attending a half-day event, but actually only 1 hour learning has taken place at that event. Or you've been reading a transportation professional magazine for an hour, but actually you've learned from that specific reading half an hour worth of a time that you can capture meaningfully and realistically. Another thing is to when we look out is how CPD, or if CPD is actually linked back to the development action plan at all, or are the, so basically really comes down to those SMART that you said. Your objectives should be SMART and they should be directly linked with CPD. So are they relevant at all? And is there planning and acting and reflecting taking place? So really all these things that you've mentioned in the guidance, we will be looking for to make sure that there is benefit and it's done in a way that has that function of plan, action, record and reflect really against that. And this year obviously there's going to be that decarbonization requirement as well. Equally, I wonder, John, if you, because obviously members have only small samples and different members, have respective candidates, and obviously their role is only held for a few years, but obviously you would have that wider overview from different submissions. So I wonder if perhaps you can share some of the common pitfalls so we can learn from them. When you first reach out to candidates, are there things that perhaps they're not providing you perhaps need to maybe explain again or ask them to correct before you pass that on to members to review, or perhaps even just seeing the submissions? Obviously, when we review, we are asked to really leave some positive comments and comments to be reflected on. So obviously we want to make sure that good activities, good behavior is sustained, but where things are not going as expected, we obviously make that comment, but you see all of them. So I wonder if there's a theme or things you see.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned a lot of them, to be honest with you, but some of the common pitfalls that some members fall into is focusing too much of their CPD on one particular task or area of specialism. So they'll do multiple hours. They'll put their multiple hours of CPD on one particular specialism, but we're really looking for them to seek out broader opportunities to learn, and particularly now, as you mentioned, that CIHT requires its members to undertake some of its CPD on decarbonisation. Members can look at the transport decarbonisation pathway and start to consider some other CPD that they might not normally consider. And now that they have perhaps more of an understanding of what constitutes CPD, they can undertake, they can record some of the CPD that they haven't perhaps been recording in the past. So that's another pitfall, is potentially not knowing what constitutes CPD, which of course the answer is it is almost anything that can progress your development and support your learning. So there's some people don't don't take advantage of enough of the online learning that is available. So since the pandemic, online learning has gone on in leaps and bounds, and a lot of the organizations that are providing their CPD have transferred or made their CPD available online, so people can take it at their own time, at their own pace, and not be bound to having to go to specific events just for their CPD. Of course, going to the events and networking and having those conversations is also absolutely wonderful and critical to your development and learning, but there are some incredible CPD opportunities that are available online, and I think particularly through CIHT regions, who are now delivering hours and hours of CPD events every month, both online and in person. So I think it's just, along with the things that you've already mentioned, those are some of the pitfalls that we find when people are creating and submitting their CPD record. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
So how would you reflect on your CPD activities, Aga, so you can plan for the year ahead? If you were to create your own development action plan, how would you reflect on your activities so you can then start to create your next action plan?
Thank you, John. That's a good question. I think it's an important question because sometimes it can feel like sort of an onerous task that we have to do. But I think instead we should really be thinking as a great opportunity for us to take time and focus on ourselves. So it's easy to get on with your daytime job and really think sometimes about recording those CPDs as a daunting task, or why do we even need to do it? But actually, it has many functions, and I like to think about that in that way. Not only it helps us to take the time and stop and pause and answer those questions that we are asked. Where do I want to be in 12 months' time? Where do I want to be in 3 years' time? And I think it's important to really think about that in that lens. Where do I want to head? Because that would then translate into another question that we are asked, rather than just think about it and leave it at that. What objectives I need to meet to get to that point? And again, another next question. So what do I need to do to meet these objectives? So once I sort of sit down, I really try to really take the time and think about it. And once I do it, I like to go back to it and then think about it and then go back to it, because that really then sets the tone for the year or even 3-5 years ahead of you. And obviously some of you will be doing the same similar activity through your employer. So obviously the two can align absolutely. And it really comes down to what you were showing earlier, John, to that SWOT analysis, then setting up objectives, and then linking to CPDs. Yeah, I think this really is the time when you can realize, actually, I've been doing this, but thinking long term rather than what do I need to do next week or next month is what needs to happen during that review and planning period.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's a very clear answer. So how would you, I did touch on this a little bit, but how do you think CPD has evolved during the pandemic?
Thank you. I think this is a good question. Again, going back to when I did sort of my introductory slide, we are, other than just professionals, obviously we have personal life, we have other commitments, or just simply complications perhaps with health that prevent us from going as often or to certain places. And equally, I've been prior to pandemic many times thinking about those who don't live in, like I live in London, and I'm lucky that there's so many events happening in London, and I can simply jump on a tube or just after work go to the event. But many times I was wondering how people who live in smaller towns or smaller cities or villages, how they do it, because then obviously you need to catch a train, or even when you have other commitments, obviously that takes time to go to an event, which, like you said, it's an amazing thing to do. It has its own value, and I do still try to find the time and effort to make effort to go to those events because they bring range of benefits. But at the same time, it's fantastic that pandemic, like you said, has brought about so many online opportunities, because like you can be anywhere, almost in the world, and access the ever-growing database of information and webinars and courses, interactive courses online. And like I mentioned, there's not, there's obviously CIHT, which is great, it does the job for you, but if there's anything else you want to seek or more, then there are other resources as well, where you've got those podcasts, webinars, you can watch or listen. So I think this is really making things easier for us,
Yeah.
juggling parents and juggling professionals.
Okay.
And even, to be honest, if I can just add to that, even being a STEM ambassador, you don't have to do that in person. I have done events when I've attended the school and presented to classes, to children, but I've also done activities which were around recording my presentation, that was then used as like a game at school. And at the end of my presentation, so I talked about my job, and throughout talking about my job, I sort of weaved in some topics about decarbonization, sustainability, well, not so much sustainability and sustainable transport modes. And at the end of my presentation, I asked the question, if children can name 3 sustainable modes of transport. Again, that doesn't require you to travel anywhere. I did it in my own sort of at my own leisure with the person. I could equally record it myself and just send it to them. And there was another resource I did as well for STEM, as the STEM ambassador, where I prepared a little material to show to primary school children how math can be used in project management, in civil engineering. Obviously, you can do resources relevant, applicable to what you do, but that just really shows you can still meet those requirements through just working from home, or even during your working hours. You still be meeting that requirement because of that sort of virtual platform and opportunities that opened up through the hard times of pandemics. But that really brought about change and more opportunities, especially also for women who often are in that disadvantaged position, which is why I wanted to really bring that into the discussion and mention that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful answer. Very very briefly, I'm conscious of time. Uh, how would you rate the value and importance of CPD on your career?
I think that's just really critical. There's no question about it. When I presented at this Young Professional Engineers Summit in November, really I sort of felt it's important to stress how I feel about it, which is basically the effort we make every day. It's what shapes our trajectory. So it could be one little thing you do every day, and that takes you to where you want to be. And I think that the CPDs really are these extra little steps. So, for example, I may go extra mile to understand something better about the material or about different solution that can then generate time saving or money saving to the client, or simply I will be able to contribute to the discussion next time and be more informed, introduce new ideas. So really, by expanding in knowledge, by doing those CPDs, you are growing really yourself. You are really, this is for you. CPDs are for you. And by learning, not only you become better at what you do, but also you are able to demonstrate to your clients, to your employer, that knowledge, and also commitment. So it's not only that, but there's also the commitment part of it. And these things sometimes, like commitment or going extra mile, they're not always tangible, measurable easily, but they are noticeable. And It's those
Absolutely.
things, I think, that really take you places. And if you look at that Engineering Council and also CIHT website that featuring case studies, there are some inspirational, amazing stories of fantastic professionals. And if you read them, you can clearly straight away see these are people who definitely have gone extra mile, who have taken the time to learn something or volunteer, present, help others, or maybe they are members of the committee, or maybe they have created a new organization, new committee themselves. There's so many fantastic, excellent examples that CPD it's sort of hidden within those activities.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't do anything, nothing changes. So absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. I actually had that in mind. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly the best way to show, the difference between doing something and not doing. If you're not doing anything, you'll be same place. But by doing CPDs and learning, you are obviously progressing.
You're elevating yourself, which is obviously the goal of the CPD, and obviously for the benefit of the public as well and public safety. Kat, do we have any questions from the audience?
So the chat's been really active. There's been some really good questions. A lot of them have been sort of relevant to people's individual circumstances, so I've answered a lot of those. And I think you've both answered quite a few of them sort of while you've been speaking as well, which is great. So I'm mindful of time, but perhaps you could just answer this question, which is, and I think you did touch on this, but it would be sort of good to go into it. So while actions are set out in the professional development plan, and you sort of set out CPD activities that you're going to do there, can you also record unplanned CPD activities? Say you see a webinar that you decide to go to, like this one, can you add them to your CPD record as well?
Absolutely, no question. Yes, you can. So I mean, Agra, if you want to add to this as well, but very simply, because we're short of time, yes, you can. You can add anything to your CPD record as well. We have had CPD records submitted of several hundred hours at some point of people who have gone above and beyond, gone the extra mile, as Aga was saying, to write down all of the CPD that they have undertaken throughout the year, whether they think it's relevant to their job role or not, whether they think that it's relevant to a particular development action plan they're going for. They've written it down so they can learn to reflect on it and look back on it over the year, and then they can better plan their year ahead because they know what they've taken, they know what their gaps in their knowledge are, and then they can basically use that to propel themselves forward. Aga, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think that's it. Really, you've covered it. Just to say that as you are picking that objective, you don't have to pick any of the objectives that you would have set yourself up. So you just leave that blank, and that still allows you to record the activity without selecting an objective.
Brilliant.
That's
brilliant.
Thank you. So I think all the other questions I've either answered or you've answered while you've been speaking. So I'll hand back over to you.
Okay, superb. Thank you very much, Kat, for answering those questions, and thank you very much to our audience for their participation and for taking their time, your time, to learn with us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have learned something. So I will pass over to Agnieszka if she would like to say any final words. Other than that, we will start to log off.
No, just my pleasure to be here, and I really do hope that everybody watching this takes CPDs as to their advantage. And really, I cannot stress enough, this is for you, about you, and it's for you to create your own brand and create your own success and be the one shaping it and influencing it. And really, CPD is just that. There's just so many different ways you can demonstrate it, demonstrate you've developed and progressed, and that can be easily captured under CPD, and you will only benefit from it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Agnieszka, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time as well. And To everyone, thank you, and we'll say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.